Hello, grade 11s, and it is a great day indeed, isn't it? And you know why it's a great day, right? Well, I mean, on this very day, okay. So, we're looking at past exams. Now, remember, the point of this is not to run through each question. This is how we solve each one. But each of these videos is going to tackle a section of the exam and see how do we know where we're going to go to. And then I'll leave it to you to solve it. You've got access to the full memos, all of that, and you can ask any specific questions after that. But it's to see what do we want to do. Now, the first few questions are related to the other videos that are on the website on exponents and surds, so you can check those out. Those are going to be much more in-depth and in detail than these ones. So let's get into it and put ourselves over there and say, okay, so here we are. We've got our past paper and we're given a few things on the front info sheet. This is paper 1, so you're not worried about the trigs things. Those are going to come in paper 2, and we know what all of these are. We use them. Okay, so solve for x. Easy one, right? What is your strategy to solve for x in question A? Okay, well, if we're multiplying two things, one of those things must be 0. So either this bracket's 0 or that bracket's equal to 0, and you solve from that. So you've got two different equations, two solutions. Easy enough. 2 marks in the bag, gift marks really. So there we go. We were given a gift to start the exam. I got gifts today too. Okay, so anyway, so we got the next one. 2x squared equals 6 minus 5x. What do? We're going to just, I'll tell you one thing not to do. We're not just going to say, oh, rearrange. We've got x's on one side and everything else on the other side, our constants. What is our strategy generally when we have this x squared, when we have a quadratic? What's our strategy going to be? Okay, cool. So I'm hoping that it's okay. Well, we're going to rearrange it so it equals 0. Next question. It says round your answers off to 2 decimal places. Why do you think that that's come up as an option for us to do? What do you think we're going to use? We are certainly going to use the quadratic formula. Here it is given to us as if we need it, because we know that one, right? X equals minus b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, everything over 2a. Cool. So we know what to do. We rearrange it. So we've got it in standard form. Once we've got it in standard form, substitute into our equation, show the substitution step. I think it's useful to show the next step where you show what's under the square root, not a 0. So maybe I should just put like a square and say, show what's there, because that's going to be important for nature of roots. Not used in this question, but a useful step to show. And you've got x equals something or x equals something else. Remember, your calculator is going to give you a square rooty answer, a surd, and you're going to use the S to D button to turn it into a decimal and round off to 2 decimal places. Cool. Another 3 marks in the bag, and this I think is in the bag because once you've rearranged, you really just plug and sub. So some more gifts for you. Yay, 5 marks into. Okay, square root of 1 plus x plus 5 equals x. Okay, so strategy for this one. What's your first step that you need to take when you see something like this? Okay, so thinking, well, what do we do? Well, it would be useful. We saw this square, and we saw this in the test from this year of, well, if we've got that square, so if we've got something like square root x equals 8, well then x is going to be 64, because what did you do to each side? You squared each side, so you got there. And what you had was just the square root on this side. So if the equation to start with was square root x minus 8 equals 0, you would have rearranged, so you had square root x equals 8, and then you can do it. So same idea here. Subtract 5, so that you've just got the square root on one side equals x minus 5, and then you're going to square, be careful, brackets, and then we generally been writing this out to go x minus 5, so you can get a whole lot of stuff. You will get 2 solutions. Be sure to check your solutions, so put them back into the original equation to check if they work. Or you can put it into this part of the equation, doesn't matter, but maybe just back in the original, check that each of them actually works, because it's very likely that one of these solutions is not going to work. Not always, but there's a possibility, so you need to check your answer. Cool, so 4 marks, perhaps gifts, maybe some gifts along the way there. I would say it's gifty enough, but I don't know. Okay, so let's keep at it and go x minus 1 less than or equal to 20. Interesting. What was this one about? If I gave you this question, x minus 1 equals 20, so as a different question, what would your method of attack be to solve this be? I'd say that my method of attack, if I were to do this, would be, well, I'd multiply this out and go, oh, well, that's x squared minus x equals 20. Oh, what did we say here? Quadratic. So for a quadratic, we rearrange it. So we got x squared minus x minus 20 equals 0. Rearrange so it equals 0. Same idea for this one. So we need to rearrange it. So we've got, let's just do this one quickly, x squared minus x minus 20 less than or equal to 0. Let's have a look at this. Well, what was our strategy? Because the same strategy for the next step is going to hold here. What's our strategy for solving this equation, which is going to be the same strategy we use here? Well, it's this trinomial is just asking, it's begging, please, please, please factorize me. So you factorize it, and after that, you're going to draw a picture. In your picture with your 2 roots, what shape are you going to draw? Well, you're going to draw a parabola because x squared, these quadratics are parabolas. So let's draw our parabola. You're going to have 2 roots, whatever these 2 numbers are, like x minus something. And then you're looking at less than 0. So these things are less than 0. If, however, the question, or less than or equal, so include these. If the question were the other way and it said greater than 0, then we'd need to look at these parts on top because those are greater than 0. Cool. Looking good so far. Gifts if we know what's going on, but not quite the same gift as just plug into the quadratic formula, but definitely gift. And just a reminder, show this step because we want to see it. It forms part of your method. So draw the picture. Pictures are good. Okay, that was terrible, right? Okay, so here we go. Let's keep going. We're saying what we're going to do. 2 to the 2x plus 3 minus 7 equals 0. Now, we just did a whole lot of these types of questions and exponents and surds. As I said, go back to those videos if you want more in depth, because in the exam you get given 1 or 2 of these. In the test we did a whole lot. So you can use that to see, because you're not necessarily going to get the same question in this exam. It could be something else from this section. Okay, 2 to the 2x. So our strategy here, we're still going, okay, remember we're looking at how many terms, things like that. Well, how many terms here have got variables in them? Well, just this one, right? So this term's got variables, so we can think of it like, well, can you imagine you had 3x minus 7 equals 4? What would you do for this equation given here? You had plus 7, and you get 3x equals 11. What would you do next? I'm not going to ask it as a question. I'm not going to divide by 11. I'm going to divide by 3 so that we just got x. Okay, what you do on one side, you do on the other, so you get your answer. Okay, so a similar strategy here. Let's rearrange it so that we plus 7 equals 16. Okay. What do you notice about our bases here, and what do we generally do with our bases in this case? Well, we prime factorize. Let's turn them into the same base. So let's prime factorize. So 2 to the 2x plus 3 equals 2 to the 4. If the bases are the same, cool. Exponents the same, so 2x plus 3 equals 4. Solve. Okay. Gifts. Okay, no. But if we know what's going on, it really is just, okay, cool. I loved in the last test, it was, that last question was quite chill, just cos rule. yeah, that kind of idea of if you're really on top of your work, it's like that. If you're struggling around and not sure, then it can be a struggle, but then you can get there as well. So not saying, geez, you're going to come in perfectly confidently. Okay, so our last question for this one. Solve for x if all of this stuff is going on. Well, we got lots of things, lots of terms, lots of things. So what's our strategy when we've got fractions like this? Well, might have written a few things there. I'm thinking strategies involve things like, let's get a lowest common denominator as part of our strategy. Ooh, there are definitely lots of terms going on, so let's turn things into one term. And if we turn things into one term, how do we normally go about manipulating it so we change it into one term? Well, we normally factorize. So there's bound to be a bit of factorization going on. Or these things are just going to go in brackets. So we've got x minus 3, that thing in brackets, not interested in the tops for now, the numerators. Okay, so we've got x, 5, and then we can factorize this trinomial begging to be factorized into bracket, 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 bracket. You can factorize this top as well. Looks like there's a highest common factor. And then you can get your LCD, which is the lowest common denominator, something on the bottom that's going to have all of these terms involved. So there's an x minus 3, so that's going to be there. There's an x plus 2, so that's going to go there. If there's something else, I don't want to give away the whole question. If there's something else here that is not one of these, then you're going to put it down here as well. And you may need a switcheroo. I can see that you don't for this question, but the switcheroo is if you had like a 3 minus x, then you change it to minus x minus 3. Same thing, you've just written it differently so that suddenly it starts looking the same. Cool, that is that. I think it is about time that we said goodbye, and maybe let's just have a little bit of a chocolate. This should be nice, right? Oh, goodbye.